Hi and greetings to Dr. Mahedran and all of you. My name is Nuridan Laminti Azmi and we are from Group 10. So in this presentation, we will present about a translanguaging activity that we have chosen, that is Speak, Prep, Perform. So we have group members Nurul Wahida, Marcela, Clara and Clarabel. In ESL classrooms, students come from diverse language backgrounds, and in the Malaysian context, most learners speak Malay language as their mother tongue, while English functions as a second or even third language. Due to this linguistic difference, English lessons that rely solely on English can be challenging and sometimes intimidating for students, particularly when they encounter unfamiliar vocabulary, complex grammatical structures, or instructions that they do not fully understand. These difficulties often lead to low confidence and increased anxiety, causing many students to avoid participating in speaking activities and classroom discussions. Research has shown that linguistic challenges such as pronunciation problems, limited vocabulary, and confusion over grammatical structures hinder students' ability to speak English effectively in class. These situations highlights the need for more inclusive teaching approaches that acknowledge and utilize students' existing in linguistic knowledge. One such approach is translanguaging, which allows students to draw on their first language alongside English as a resource for learning. Through translanguaging, students are able to clarify meanings, organize their thoughts, and build understanding in a familiar language before expressing their ideas in English. And in response to these challenges, this assignment introduced a simple translanguaging activity called Pick, Prep, Perform, which is designed for Form 2 students. In this activity, students first speak familiar cultural words and ideas using Malay language, then prepare their response through discussion and planning in their mother tongue, and finally perform by presenting their ideas in English. By allowing students to move gradually from their first language to English, this activity helps reduce anxiety, encourages participation, and supports the development of students' reading and speaking skills, ultimately building greater confidence in using English in their daily lives. At this point, it is important to highlight that learning English should not be limited to examinations purpose only, but should also prepare students for real-life communications. Many students actually have ideas and opinions, but they struggle to express them because they feel restricted by language rules and fear making mistakes. Therefore, creating a safe and supportive classroom environment is essential to encourage students to take risks in speaking English. In this lesson, culture is used as a meaningful context because familiar topics such as Malaysian festivals allow students to relate new English vocabulary to their own experiences. This approach helps students see English as a tool for communications rather than a subject they are afraid of. Furthermore, the teacher's role is not to prevent the use of the mother tongue, but to guide students in moving gradually from their first language to English. By doing so, students are more likely to participate actively, collaborate with their peers, and develop confidence in expressing their ideas in English. So for the objectives, we have two objectives here. So by the end of the lesson, students are expected to achieve a set of learning objectives that focus not only on developing their English language skills, but also on helping them use language meaningfully within a cultural and social context. From a linguist, from a linguistic perspective, students will be able to use appropriate English vocabulary related to Malaysian festivals, which allows them to talk about familiar celebrations, activities, and traditions using English words. They will also able to construct simple spoken sentences to welcome others and explain cultural practices, enabling them to communicate basic ideas clearly and confidently. In addition, students will participate in a short role play using English as the main language, which provides them with opportunities to practice speaking in an interactive and authentic manner rather than relying on memorized sentences. Students will further develop their listening and speaking skills by responding to simple questions related to the festival or cultural context presented. At the same time, this lesson places strong emphasis on, on translanguaging and sociolinguistic objectives by allowing students to use their mother tongue or local dialect strategically to support this understanding of cultural meanings, especially when certain ideas are difficult to express in English alone. Students will be encouraged to integrate selected local words or phrases such as Maria, Angpao, and Bunga Api into their English role play performance to reflect authentic language use and cultural identity. They will also be given opportunities to use their first language to express cultural feelings, tastes, or traditions that carry deeper meanings, which helps them organize their thoughts before expressing them in English. Through this process, students are guided to reflect how using multiple languages supports comprehensions, reduces anxiety, and builds confidence, ultimately enabling them to participate more actively and express their ideas more effectively in English.
Good day, Doctor. My name is Nurul Wahida binti Sarif. In this assignment, we have rooted our teaching activity, Pick, Prep, and Perform in Social Cultural Theory, or SCT, and developed by Lev Vygotsky. Our core belief is that language is far more than just a set of grammar rules. It is a social tool used for collaborative dialogue. In our classroom, students do not learn in isolation. Instead, they co construct meaning together. This approach is specifically designed for Form 2 students to help them overcome the linguistic barriers like limited vocabulary and grammar anxiety that often prevent them from speaking English in a traditional setting. Okay, so firstly, sociocultural theory posits that language learning is a social and cultural process. We bring this to life in phase one, which is the mystery selection, to build immediate curiosity and lower the effective filter as described by question. The teacher presents five brightly colored mystery envelopes, and each group chooses an envelope that contains a specific festival name such as Hari Raya, Deepavali, or Christmas. And what makes this social is that the envelopes also include real life scenarios that are familiar to Malaysian students. Okay, so for example, welcoming a new neighbor to your house, or explaining a traditional dish to a confused friend. And by starting with these familiar, culturally rooted situations, the classroom becomes a social space where learners build meaning together. And instead of being stressed about a difficult English task, students are focused on the game of the mystery selection. And this initial stage ensures that students are using English to accomplish a purposeful social task from the very first minute, and making the transition into the speaking activity feel much more natural and much less intimidating. Okay, moving on. An essential part of this lesson focuses on the zone of proximal development, or ZPD, and the strategic use of scaffolding. Recognizing that speaking only English can be intimidating for Form 2 students, we provide translanguaging as a crucial support system. We combine this theoretical support with two practical strategies. And the first one is language support through mother tongue and sentence status. We allow students to explore and explain the cultural ideas in their mother tongue before translating them into English. This acts as a linguistic safety net, where helping them understand the topics deeply without fear. And to assist their speaking, the teacher provides structural support through sentence frames like, okay, at the festival, individuals typically blah blah blah. This status gives students a clear blueprint to follow, reducing the stress of blanking out. And then the next strategy is visual scaffolding and prop making. We also use visual tools to make abstract cultural concepts easier to visualize. So during the prep phase, students create physical props using, for example, sugar papers, markers, or double-sided tab, and they create drawings such as ketupat or column or angpao. These handmade items act as physical reminders and points of reference, which helps lower their anxiety and makes their role play much more interactive for the audience. Okay, by using these scaffolds, we bridge the gap between what they know in their mother tongue and what they are learning in English, and allowing them to perform at a higher level than they could alone. Okay, finally, in phase 3, we look at the content we are teaching. To make the language stick, it has to matter to the students. This activity values the students' funds of knowledge by incorporating the rich cultural traditions they already have from their homes. We aren't asking them to talk about things they don't understand. By focusing the lesson on Malaysian festivals, the learning experience becomes more personal, meaningful, and engaging for every student. Whether it's Hari Raya, Deepavali, or Chinese New Year, every student is an expert in their own culture. Seeing their own culture reflected in the English classroom helps students feel more confident and connected to the language they are learning. It removes the foreignness of English. Using these cultural tools as a base ensures that learning English is a friendly and authentic experience that truly helps learners to grow. We are validating their identities while simultaneously expanding their linguistic horizons. And to wrap these three phases, I want us to look at the synergy between them. We don't just use one theory, we use a combination of these frameworks to ensure success. By understanding sociocultural theory, we acknowledge that our students are social beings who learn best when they are talking and working together. By identifying the zone of proximal development, we provide the scaffolding and translanguaging necessary to make sure no students feel overwhelmed or silenced. And finally, by tapping into their funds of knowledge, we make the English classroom a friendly and authentic experience where their culture is a strength and not a distraction. That's all from me. Thank you.
Hello, doctor. I am Marcela Fredick, and in our assignment, our activity is also theoretically grounded in Krashen's effective filter theory hypothesis, which posits that learners acquire language most effectively when their effective filter is low. The effective filter is influenced by three main variables, which are anxiety, self confidence, and motivation. When these effective barriers are high, comprehensible input is blocked from being internalized regardless of the quality of the instructions. So, to address this matter, our activity aims to lower the anxiety and increase motivation in phase 1. So, in phase 1, students begin by choosing a mystery envelope containing a festival name and a familiar real life scenario. This game-like element reduces pressure and frames the task as an enjoyable activity rather than a test. Because the scenarios are culturally familiar, students are able to focus on the meaning without feeling overwhelmed by unfamiliar content. And the translanguaging challenge further supports this stage by allowing students to include local words such as Maria, Ang Pao, or Bunga Api. This validates students' linguistic identity and prevents them from feeling silenced by the limited English vocabulary. Then, by allowing students to draw on their full linguistic repertoire, anxiety is reduced and confidence is supported. So, overall, phase 1 keeps the effective filter low by creating a relaxed and motivating entry into the lesson, preparing students emotionally to use English. Next, our lesson also focuses on building students' confidence through effective scaffolding. Krashen highlights self-confidence as a key factor in lowering the effective filter. If learners feel capable, they are more willing to engage with language input and output. So in second phase of our lesson, we required students to collaboratively script their role play using translanguaging. The structural framework of the dialogue is written in English, while culturally rich meanings are allowed in the students' mother tongue. This approach reduces the pressure of finding the exact English equivalents for cultural concepts, which helps lowering cognitive and emotional stress among students. On the other hand, hands-off prop making further supports students emotionally. By creating visual aids such as ketupat or kolam, it provides students with concrete reference points during speaking. These props function as visual and effective scaffolds, helping them feel prepared and also reducing their speaking anxiety. So, because students work in groups, support is shared and mistakes are treated as part of the learning process. As confidence increases, the effective filter remains low, allowing students to gradually become more comfortable to use English. Moreover, we also want to provide students with a safe space to use English in a real-world context while maintaining a low effective filter. This will occur in the performance phase, which is the third phase. So we know that public speaking often raises anxiety, which can block language acquisition. To prevent this, students will perform rehearsed role plays rather than spontaneous speeches. Translanguaging also remains permitted during the performance, allowing students to express deep cultural meanings that are difficult to translate into English. For example, gotong royong. This reduces fear of linguistic failure and encourages risk-taking. And to maintain emotional safety, the audience participates through the challenge word listening game. Instead of judging the performance, students listen actively for specific words, turning listening into an engaging and supportive activity. So this shifts the classroom dynamics from evaluation to participation. Then the post-performance question and answer further encourages meaningful interaction. Simply, in short, supportive questions promote cultural exchange rather than error correction. As a result, anxiety remains low, confidence is sustained, and students are more open to use English meaningfully. Finally, we want to sustain motivation and emotional validation throughout the lesson. Crescent emphasizes that motivation plays a crucial role in keeping the effective filter low. So, by ending the lesson with validation and reflection, strengthens students' emotional connection to English learning. So, during the wrap up and reflection phase, we will highlight how the use of local words and cultural references made the English interactions more authentic and meaningful. This reinforces the idea that students' linguistic identities are valued in a classroom. When students are then encouraged to reflect on how using their mother tongue helped them to understand cultural meanings and express ideas more confidently in English. This reflection promotes effective awareness, helping students recognize their own progress and reduce their anxiety. By ending the lesson on a positive and reflective note, students leave the classroom feeling motivated rather than stressed. This ensures that English learning is associated with confidence and success, aligning closely with Crescent's effective filter hypothesis. And that's all from me. Thank you.
Greetings to Dr. Mahendran. My name is Clara Anna Iris Steven, and my matrix number is D202411132226. I will talk about an activity called Pick, Prep, and Perform for Form 2 students. The theme is People and Culture, focusing on celebration in Malaysia. The main skill we focus on is speaking, while reading and writing help students prepare and organize their ideas. In this activity, students use both Bahasa Melayu and English. Bahasa Melayu helps them understand cultural ideas, and English helps them share these ideas with others. By the end of this activity, students will communicate confidently, understand cultural meaning, and enjoy learning about Malaysian celebration. Next, I will be talking about the activity description. Pick, Prep, Perform is an activity designed for Form 2 students under the theme People and Culture, with a specific focus on celebration in Malaysia, such as Hari Raya Aidilfitri, Chinese New Year, Deepavali, and Gawai. The main idea of this activity is to encourage students to use both Bahasa Melayu and English to construct meaning. At the beginning of the lesson, Bahasa Melayu is intentionally used to help students understand familiar cultural terms, concepts, and ideas. For example, students may first discuss terms like rumah terbuka, pakaian tradisional, or amalan budaya in Bahasa Melayu before learning how to explain this in English. Through guided reading materials, students are exposed to short and simple texts about Malaysian celebrations. During group discussion, students are allowed to switch between Bahasa Melayu and English to clarify meaning, ask questions, and support each other understanding. In addition, students complete simple writing tasks such as listing key points or drafting short sentences to help them organize their ideas. Throughout this activity, students practice translanguaging, where they move flexibly between both languages. This helps them negotiate meaning, build vocabulary, and gain confidence before using English more independently. The activity then concludes with an oral performance. At this stage, students mainly present information in English, for example, by explaining how a celebration is observed, what activities are involved, and why is it important in Malaysian culture. Here, speaking is the primary skill being assessed, while reading and writing support students in preparing their content. By drawing on their full linguistic resources, students feel more confident and less anxious when speaking in English. As a result, they show better comprehension, clearer organization of ideas, and improved communication skill, especially in expressing cultural knowledge that is meaningful and familiar to them. There are 6 materials used in this activity. For the first one is envelopes, envelope used for the mystery selections and the challenge words. And the second one, scenario cards. Third, sugar paper, followed by double tap, markers, and stationery such as pencil, eraser, scissors, or glue. Let's moving on to the step-by-step of this activity. Phase 1 of the lesson is called the mystery selection and it takes about 10 minutes. In this phase, the teacher prepares 5 mystery envelopes, each containing the name of a festival such as Hari Raya, Deepavali, Chinese New Year, Gawai, and Christmas. Students are divided into groups and each group randomly select one envelope. The festival inside the envelope becomes the focus of their activity. Next, students are given a real-life role-play scenario related to the festival. For example, they may role-play welcoming a new neighbor or explaining a traditional dish associated with the celebration. To add translanguaging elements, students are required to include three local words or phrases in their dialogue. Examples include Maria, Angpao, and Bunga Api. This phase encourages students to collaborate, use language authentically, and appreciate cultural diversity through meaningful communication. Let's moving on to the phase 2. In phase 2, the classroom become a creative workshop where students collaboratively prepare their performance. Each group draft a 2 minutes dialogue using English for the overall structure while incorporating their mother tongue to express culturally specific ideas like muhibah or pedas. This approach allows students to stay authentic and confident without struggling to translate directly. At the same time, students create simple props, such as ketupat for Hari Raya or kolam for Deepavali, which serve as visual support for their dialogue. This prop not only make the performance clearer and more engaging, but also help reduce anxiety. By the end of this phase, every group has a polished dialogue draft and a meaningful prop ready for the rehearsal. Let's moving on to the phase 3, the performance. The performance involves a live role play where each group member participates using props to enhance engagement. English serves as the primary language, while the mother tongue is incorporated for culturally rich expression. To encourage active listening, a challenge word game is included where the audience listens for a specific translanguaging word and raise hand when they hear the word. This can make the observation interactive and engaging. After the performance, a short Q&A session allows the student to ask culturally reflective questions such as the significance of tradition or typical foods. This phase promotes cultural exchange, strengthen communication skill, and foster a deeper understanding of cultural background. In the wrap up and reflection phase, the teacher guides a short class discussion to highlight the key learning points from the lesson. This includes emphasizing how using local words and expression can make English communication more authentic, meaningful, and reflective of Malaysian culture. Students are encouraged to reflect briefly on how incorporating their mother tongue or local dialect help them better understand cultural concepts and how translanguaging, switching between languages, enable them to express their ideas more confidently in English. This discussion reinforced the connection between language, culture, and communication skill, helping students see that using multiple languages can enrich both understanding and expression. That's all from me. Thank you.
My name is Clarabel Anak Francis, and next I will be presenting the learning outcomes that we will achieve by the end of this activity. So, by the end of these activities, students will be able to communicate their cultural identity through speaking. Students will be able to describe specific Malaysian festive customs and traditions such as foods, greetings, and rituals using English during a 3-minute roleplay performance. This ensures that they meet the people and culture theme of the Form 2 syllabus. Next, students will be able to use translanguaging strategically. Students will be able to utilize their full linguistic knowledge, which involves blending English with local terms like baju kurung or meriah to convey complex cultural ideas that are difficult to express in English or alone. This demonstrates their ability to communicate authentically and effectively. And as for the third learning outcome that we will achieve is the students will be able to collaborate to co-construct meaning. Students will be able to demonstrate teamwork by negotiating ideas and co-writing a roleplay script with their peers. This aligns with the collaborative dialogue required by the social cultural theories demonstrating that individuals can use language as a social tool to accomplish a task. In conclusion, this activity promotes peer interaction and social learning through collaborative role-playing based on real-life situations. This helps students to improve their fluency and confidence in speaking English. Role-play also creates an inclusive environment where quieter students can express themselves freely. By incorporating translanguaging, students will be able to use their first language or local dialects to support meaning making while also strengthening their use of the targeted language. Overall, this approach develops social linguistic awareness by enabling learners to adapt language according to context, audience, and purpose while also preparing them for effective real world situations and communication.